no more than 5 or 10 minutes, telling people, the average voter, why should we change governors right now, and why are you the better candidate to take over?
Sure. Well, I think it's a combination of what Governor Kasich promised he was going to do, and then what he delivered, and then what my background and experience has been in terms of making government work efficiently and effectively for the average person. If you go back to the 2010 election, Governor Kasich's really the heart of his campaign was that he should be elected because the economy had lost a lot of jobs, and that he was going to give us an economy in Ohio that was outperforming the rest of the country. And I don't have any doubt, I don't know if he's going to interview with you or already has, that he would say that he has fulfilled that because we lost jobs and now we've added jobs. But let's get serious about it. During the recession, all 50 states all 50 states lost jobs. And during the recovery, which started in 2009, all 50 states have gained jobs. So if our measure of whether a governor was doing a good job or a bad job was whether they lost jobs during the recession, then all 50 governors, Republicans, Democrats, liberals, conservatives, they all should have been thrown out. And because all 50 states have had their unemployment rate go down, then all governors should be retained. And obviously that's not the case. So the question is whether or not the policies that have been implemented has caused us to be outperforming the rest of the country. And the answer to that is no. And that isn't just something that my campaign is claiming. That's an objective economic fact that has been reported on and established by numerous academic institutions. So for instance, we rank about 41st out of 50 states in terms of recovering from the recession. We have had 22 months in a row of being below the national average in job creation. The rest of the country has gained, as a whole, the country has gained back all the jobs that we lost during the recession, but Ohio is still well over 100,000 jobs short. So we are not overperforming. We are underperforming. So by the governor's own measure, he is failing on that fundamental issue of the economy. Now, his strategy in order to give us an economy that was overperforming was basically all centered around tax cuts. That if income taxes were reduced, it would create an economic boom. What he did not disclose to people was how he would pay for those tax cuts. And that is the way that those tax cuts were paid for have had real implications for a lot of communities in Ohio. The first part, by the way, is the fact that it did not create an economic boom. So the whole theory didn't work. But secondly, those tax cuts were not free. And what he didn't disclose was all the taxes he was going to raise. So he raised the cat tax, and he took away the homestead exemption for a lot of seniors, and he raised the taxes on oil and gas, and he raised the sales tax, of course. So all those things had consequences. He cut 50% out of the local government fund. He cut over $500 million net out of education still to this day, which has led to this incredible spiral of property taxes, which has happened all over the state. So this is, in my opinion, has been very ill-considered. So the administration has failed on that fundamental issue and a lot of other issues as well. Now, why could I do any better? I would just say this. I have a very long track record of public service as a special agent with the FBI, as a county prosecutor, as a city councilman, as a mayor, and as a county executive. And for the last 7 years, I've served in an executive capacity as a county official and as a city official. And I've made government work effectively. I've been fiscally responsible. I've balanced budgets and increased surpluses. I've done that by reducing the cost of government, unlike state government, where the cost of government has increased dramatically. But I've also had the right priorities because I've invested in things like early childhood education, making college more affordable, infrastructure, economic development. And I've done it in a fiscally responsible but also a prudent way. And I think that's a better philosophy to govern this state than what we've seen in the last few years.
Could you go through just a few of your policy proposals that you've released to date? What are
Sure.
some of the things you'd like to see
Sure.
change?
And some of them are based on things that we've done at the county level. The county that I'm the executive of currently represents 10% of the state. It's an over $1 billion budget. And we've made real investments in things that I think the state should be making similar investments. So for instance, we made a real investment in early childhood education. Ohio is one of the worst states in the country in terms of the amount that the state spends on early childhood education. The governor has had a real focus on increasing things like standardized testing without providing additional resources to school districts. One thing that basically everybody that's an expert in education concedes is that early childhood education works and that we don't have enough of it in this state. I made a proposal that we should take a look at that. On the other end of the kind of educational spectrum, higher education has become, I think, much too unaffordable. I can speak from some personal experience with that. I have 4 children. My 2 oldest are both in college now, and college is just becoming increasingly unattainable for the average family. Families are going into debt. Students are going into tens of thousands of dollars worth of debt. And what we know for certain is that more than a high school diploma is really necessary in today's economy if somebody's going to make it into the middle class or do even better. And we're not making any progress there. We have actually gone backwards in terms of, again, where do we rank nationally in terms of affordability of higher education? So we've failed there as well. We made a number of other proposals in terms of economic policy. A couple things that I would mention. One is we run an economic development fund in my county. It has some similarities to Jobs Ohio, but the difference is it's open and transparent. We don't spend public money on economic development unless there's a public vote and a public process to justify that expense. And I also think the state has been short-sighted on both an environmental issue and an economic issue in terms of what they've done with the renewable energy industry in this state. Senate Bill 310 was a big mistake. The governor wouldn't say a word about it, then ended up signing it. They enacted into law some other provisions that make it very difficult for either the wind turbine industry or the solar industry to thrive in this state. There's about 25,000 jobs that rely on that. And it was a big step backwards for the state. So I thought that was the wrong thing to do, and we, both on the environmental side of things and the economic side of things. So those are a few of the things that we've been talking about. There's other things as well.